is wondering, how often are lions in the Mara seen up in the trees? Quite often. The sausage pride likes to climb trees, Angama pride likes to climb trees. It depends on the area they're in and the temperature. So we normally find them up in the trees on hot days, and they're doing it not so much for the shade, but to get up and into the breeze and away from the biting insects. Okay, so it seems like Tristan has made his way and swathed his way through the gremlins. Maybe he ran over them. Let's go see where he is and what he's up to.
Well, gremlins unfortunately are going to keep attacking me. The Gowrie repeater is not up, so it means that I'm stuck on Vuatella signal, which means I'm doing circles at the moment, just trying to kind of work out what's going on. But we have, it looks like tracks for the Styx Pride. Unfortunately, they head southwards out of where I've got signals, so I can't really track them too much. So now I'm back where we had those tracks for that other line, which I'll just follow anyway. But it looks like this is one male that just broke off from the rest of them and is coming up. I'm pretty sure these are the same tracks that Rexon tracked all the way. Now, in terms of updates of all the other animals, it seems as though the Angama Pride is following a herd of buffalo at Sydney's Dam, but they're going slowly into the Manyeleti now, and then there's also the Talamati Pride hunting the same buffalo from the northern side. So those buffalo are in for a really rough morning by the sounds of things. They've got Nkuhumas to the south of them and the Talamatis to the north of them. Now the Talamatis sound like an interesting bunch, given that there are now 6 young males there, plus 3 or 4 adult females, and then a couple other cubs apparently. So they're quite a large grouping, and those 6 young males I think will be quite a force to be reckoned with. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to them and where they go, and whether or not they are going to be the ones that are going to provide a little bit of resistance to the Birminghams and give the Birminghams a bit of a run for their money, because the Birminghams have had it very easy so far. They haven't had to worry too much, and it's been quite sort of straightforward for them to be able to do their thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those Birminghams react in relation to these 6 young males. Of course, they've got experience on their side, so the Birminghams are older, they're more intimidating, but they don't have the numbers. So 4 against 6, the others might think to themselves, well, they fancy their chances in order to try and go after said Birmingham. So it'll be interesting to see the next year or so, I would imagine. Also, there's going to be a pressure, I'm sure, from other male lions north of them that will dictate where these guys end up. But this definitely looks like a male that left the Styx Pride and carried on, so potentially maybe one of the Birminghams that was with the Styx and then just decided, I'm going to carry on my own. Maybe he heard other lions roaring to the north of him and he's gone to go and check it out because his general tracks are going north. I'll follow them anyway just to make 100% sure these are the same ones that Rexon had. I think they must be, because the direction we're heading now is just straight towards Quarantine, and that's where he first picked them up, and then from Quarantine they went all the way along the power lines and into, like I say, Simamili. But let's just follow them in case. Maybe this is another male that's trailing in behind that male and we might get lucky. We definitely heard lions roaring on this side of the world, so maybe the Styx Pride is somewhere behind me and they were calling and they're still on Djuma somewhere, and it's just a matter of time until we find them. Unfortunately, like I say, can't head there because I don't have signal down that way, so even if we find them, there's no real point, given that I won't be able to even show it all to you. So his last track ends up going off in this direction and heading up towards Quarantine side, so I'm pretty sure it must be the same tracks given how close we are to Quarantine now. Quarantine is just on top here. It really is about, not even for us, 5-minute walk, so it must be for this lion as well. But it's weird because they were all together and it seems like now they've separated out, and I wonder why. Maybe this lion, he must have heard either the Nkuhumas or the Talamatis or those buffalo or something, that he would have split off that pride and moved off. Maybe one of his brothers made a little bit of a noise and that's why he's headed in this general direction. But we'll check anyway, we'll make sure. Like I say, it's worth doing. maybe, just maybe, it's a different one. Douglas, you're asking how my insect bite is doing. Douglas, I, to be honest, didn't even look this morning. It was a morning of... here is the... just before we get into my insect bite, those that Senzo probably is not happy with at all. These baboons have absolutely destroyed our kitchen this morning. They smashed our sliding door and have literally thrown things all over the place, and then they went into Senzo's room apparently while we've been on our drive. So these guys are not in the good books of anybody at the moment, and they're causing serious havoc at the lodge. They're destroying things and breaking windows and all kinds of things to try and get food. It's typical at this time of the year. When it's dry, the baboons become an absolute nightmare to deal with. They are far more powerful than they look, and they end up causing serious damage to the camps. They, like I say, break glass, they pull doors off their hinges, and then they just make a mess wherever they go. So poor Amanda is going to have a morning of cleaning this all up, and Senzo as well in his own room where they've gone in, and it will be males like that are the ones responsible for breaking the doors and windows. They're the ones that are powerful enough to do it, and it's a difficult thing to deal with, because once they've worked out there's food, they become very difficult to kind of keep out, because they know food is there and they will work out a way to get in there. Now what is that baboon doing? Almost looks as though it was about to sneeze. OD farming, the windows were locked. They just literally wedge their fingers and then pull until the window breaks. Or if you're a case of some baboons, they'll even just jump straight through the glass. They don't even care about opening it. I've seen a male baboon jumping straight through glass before. They are crazy sometimes. And then in terms of the sliding door had even a pole wedged in so that it couldn't be slid open. So all they did is they just literally pulled it off the rails, and that causes the whole thing to fall. And no matter if it's locked or not, that's going to break that lock and break the glass in it as well. So you really can't win with them. There's been all kinds of things that you can try, but it still doesn't work. If they want to get in, they will make a plan and they break and try and sort of wrench open anything that they can to try and get in. So they're naughty, to say the least, and like I said, it's because of the lack of food at this time of the year. They can't find food in the bush, and so there's this easy meal behind this glass door, and the drive to eat far outweighs that of the fear of jumping through glass and getting cut. Also, they have fur, quite thick fur, so they actually don't get cut that badly, funny enough, but they really are a menace to society at times. Nice to see them in the bush, not so nice to see them around camp. You can see lots of youngsters in this grouping. Snazzy, there's been many people that have tried to tame baboons, and some with success. They are a monkey, they're intelligent animals, and if they're raised from a young age, then it is very possible to tame baboons, and people do and have tamed baboons in the past. It's not advisable though. At the end of the day, this is a strong animal, and it's got serious teeth, big canines that can cause a lot of damage, and so it's not an animal you want to play around with very often, and so you certainly don't want that to attack anybody, because they will do a lot of damage. But there has been a number of people that have had baboons and have befriended baboons. There used to be a guy here called Graham who had the Gowrie gang. So a lot of our older viewers might remember the Gowrie gang, which was a group of baboons that was in this area that he ended up spending a lot of time with, particularly on foot, and they got quite relaxed with him, and he was able to then basically spend time in the troop and walk around with them, and they wouldn't really worry about him that much at all. So it is possible, as long as you kind of feed them, keep them safe, and those kind of things, where baboon will quickly become your friend. They're not ones that are difficult to tame. BP, you say that you had no idea they were that intelligent. Well, they are. They're incredibly intelligent and incredibly naughty on top of it. So where they what they can't do in intelligence, they make up for in brute strength and just sheer kind of disregard for anything that is around the area. They're, like I say, one of the biggest parts or most difficult parts of living out in the bush is baboons are a constant problem, and many people have been caught seriously short by baboons. They've been unfortunately given a lot of issues by them, so not an animal you want to deal with very often. Luckily, they haven't been too bad in the run up to this, but today we just went to the next level and they've really caused quite a bit of havoc, like I said. So kitchen does not look what it should at the moment, and poor Amanda, I feel very sorry for her because now she's got to spend her morning trying to recover the mess. And well, also we've just done our orders for food, so what they've eaten means that we go the whole week without it. So naughty baboons, we need to come up with another way to keep them out. Jamie, you're asking, how do animals in the wild find milk? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. Animals don't drink milk outside of the time when they're a baby and they suckle from their mothers. So their moms produce milk and they drink it from there. But other than that, there is really no way animals drink milk. They drink water. Us as people, we only drink milk because, well, it's been kind of sold to us that drinking milk outside of the time that you're nursing is what you should do. But it's really not actually the case. All animals, if you look at them, only when they're babies do they suckle and drink milk. Outside of that, they don't drink milk at all. They are water drinkers, except if you're baboons and you've raided a kitchen, and then you find a whole bunch of milk containers and they will drink it and break it open and carry on with it. They obviously spill a lot, but they will. But we're the only species that drinks milk outside of our formative years, really. Quarantine is abnormally quiet this morning. I would have thought we would have had some impalas on it, given the weather and the fact that it's quite cool. Now, what have we got here in front of us? What bird is sitting? Now, it looks like one of our larks. Potentially, I just want to quickly make double sure, but it could be a yellow-throated petronia, but I think it is a Sabota lark. But let's have a double check quickly. It doesn't look like the yellow-throated petronia, but it might be on my screen, so I'm going to get my binoculars out to make 100% sure. But no, it's definitely, I think, Sabota lark. So I'll show you now what a Sabota lark looks like, and we can all decide together if I am correct. There we go. Alright, so this is a Sabota lark with a very prominent white eye stripe, but I might be incorrect in seeing it. It also has a little bit of, you can see a little bit of sort of flecking on the actual chest area, and then that little white eye stripe over there. So I'm pretty sure that that's what it is one of these guys. So you can see if I go up, that looks a lot more like what we just saw on the ground over there, that particular one. So you can see that little bit of flecking around the chest area, the little white eye stripe, and that spotty kind of wing pattern that they've got. So nice to see, which is good to have them around. No, Byron saw some recently, and this is a typical place that you would find earrings like this. But I was saying it's strange that we haven't got a lot of animals on quarantine, given that it's overcast. It's not hot, so you would expect things like wildebeest, impalas, even zebras to a degree to be on the side. But maybe our male lion that walked around this area is what's disturbed everybody and made everybody a little bit uncomfortable as to his presence. Soraya and many others, you wonder how you encounter a baboon that's breaking in. Well, you run at them and shout at them, and I find that sometimes expletives work best. Not that you should use those things, so kids at home don't use foul language, but sometimes you can't help it with baboons, and they end up, if you're a man, generally running. If they are on the outside, the problem is when they're on the inside. That's when you have this issue, because encountering a baboon when it's trapped and it can't go anywhere, that's when it becomes seriously dangerous, and that you've got to just back off and accept defeat and let the baboon have its victory and let it basically go and eat what it wants to, and it must go out on its own accord. And you try and kind of leave a door open and then bang on windows and things to try get it out, but you've got to be very, very careful with baboons that are trapped in a place. When they are like that, then you've got issues and you're going to have a problem with them. So when they're on the outside, you just run at them and shout at them, and they generally move off fairly quickly. When they're on the inside, well, that's a little bit of a different story. You've got to actually, unfortunately, just wait for them to go. You can also use things like paintball guns. Have been used to quite good effect on baboons, so it obviously doesn't kill them, and it's not going to injure them permanently. It's just going to cause a little bit of a painful response, and that hopefully deters them from coming. But I've seen baboons kind of, once they've realized that it doesn't actually injure them, that they even just take the hit and then carry on eating as though it's nothing. So, you know, it's difficult. You unfortunately just got to try and chase them every time they come, and hope that the rains soon arrive and we don't get to see, you know, that they get food in the bush and we don't have to worry about it anymore. That's the ultimate goal, but whether that happens, well, anyone's guess at this stage. Now I'm going to try and see, I don't know if we're going to have signal, but I'm going to try and just head to the hyena den while I'm up this way, just to see if we can maybe get some animal on the screen this morning, because we've been struggling with any animal at all. I don't think we've even put one yet. So I'm going to try and head towards the hyena den, see if that's active and see what I can find. If nothing there, well, and then I'm not quite sure where I'm going to head, because unfortunately that's the sum total of the area I can go. Now while I meander slowly towards the hyena den, it seems Jamie's doing the absolute opposite and is racing.
One of my favorite moments when we're out all night is the moment when the sun comes up and you can actually orientate yourself. Sorry, I thought I saw something, but it's a rock. You can actually orientate yourself finally. You finally got a really good idea of exactly where it is you are, especially in areas that we are unfamiliar with. So for me, which is where we're heading to now, on our way, that hill over there is one of our most valuable landmarks. That is Lookout Hill over there. Just so for those of you who watch regularly, you can get an idea and you can start to orientate yourself as well. That's Lookout Hill. We're on the Ashlands Road. The Mara River is just the other side of that. So we're going to cut around towards the Mara River Bridge. And perhaps if we get there in time, we'll be able to show you just how full the Mara River is. When we're out all night, Lynn was wondering about whether or not having a snack is dangerous as guides. Do the animals smell it and want to come and eat it, or share it with us? No, not really. I mean, yes, they probably smell it, but not enough to encourage them to come and break that personal space barrier that exists between us and them. There may be certain situations where animals have been fed, and that is a very dangerous situation. So the baboons are a very good example. Tourists come through South Africa, they feed them, and the baboons then associate people with food, and they climb into people's cars, and they harass them, and they steal things, and it's really very dangerous, both for the people, but most importantly, to be honest, for the animals that are concerned, because when those animals become in that way inclined, most of the time there's no fixing it, and they ultimately end up being put down. But out here in the Mara, there's no risk of that. Nobody feeds the animals. Maybe you might get an elephant interested in orange just because they like that sort of smell, but it's very, very rare. I mean, Manu and I sit and snack the whole way through the night. We had chicken last night. I'm starving, I'm so hungry. Why are we talking about food? Food is really far away. Manu, do we have any chocolate biscuits left? Manu's digging for chocolate biscuits. No! Oh, we ate them all. Alright. Okay, we're going to stop talking about food now. No, it's not dangerous for us. It really isn't. You just don't feed the animals. It's quite simple. And if you don't feed the animals, they don't associate you with food. I've made a bad choice. Bad road choice. Bad. Whoop. Should have taken the little slip road. Uh-oh. Oh, Manu, what have I done? Terrible, terrible decision. Whoop. It's not that bad. There we go. Now all I can think about is snacks. I'm going to start racing in the direction of food now. That's going to be my motivating factor. Let's go and find out whether Brent has similar thoughts on his mind. Whoops!
Well, I'm just hoping to find something. We've just gone past the North Clan Hyena Den. No one at home. There's another den site close by that I'm gonna check quickly, about 400 meters or so away. But this den site doesn't look like it's being used. It might have been flooded during all the rain, which has prompted the move. But yeah, it's not going Ferguson our way this morning, I'm afraid. Not at all. Cold, windy, one herd of elephants. And I know Tristan's been spending some time with baboons, and Paul's wondering how many species of monkey do we get in the Mara. But Paul, I'm going to elaborate even further. I'm going to go, how many species of primate do we get in the Mara? Oh-ho. So, you have the olive baboon, we have vervet monkeys, we have sykes, olive baboon, vervet monkeys, sykes monkeys, red-tailed monkeys, greater bush baby and lesser bush baby. I think that's all the primates. Yeah, that's all the primates. 6 primates. Sorry, I'm just having a look here. Double checking exactly where the other den site is. Jamie found it. I'm having a look on the map. Unfortunately, currently we're moving away from it. There's another road there that's going to jump off to the right, to the left, and should take us back towards that hyena den. So we're right in the core of the clan lands, as I like to call them at the moment. Oh yeah, that's got a bit sticky there. Hi, Joshua. Joshua's wondering, do hyenas have breakaway clans? Joshua, not really. You will have clan takeovers. There will be coups and conspiracies. But the general breakaway from a clan is males. So males will leave their natal clan to try join another clan. And the researchers out here have got quite a cool name for them. They call them aliens. Alien hyenas that move from clan to clan. Okay. So it doesn't look like the new den site's too far from the old one. Oh yeah, the elephant's been having some fun in the mud here. Well, at least it's warming up a little bit. It was bitterly cold while the sun was hiding. Okay, we're getting closer now. So hyenas do move their dens fairly regularly, and most of it is to combat parasites like fleas and other horrible thingies that get basically infest the den site. But they'll normally have multiple den sites within a similar area, and that's One way to combat it is just move house when you have an infestation. Okay, let's just have a quick look here. I'm just checking the map quickly. We should be quite close now. Okay, I'm just double checking out. The den is out here. So the old den is down there. We should be getting quite close to it. Hyena den in the Mara, especially where there's a lot of these little bushes. You start looking carefully under. You sometimes start finding adult hyenas. Okay, we're almost there. So not far from the old den at all. Gurley would like to know, are there a lot of injuries between hyenas and other scavengers when they fight over carcasses? There can be, but they're generally not too serious. Oh, Tristan, the European beaters are on the way. So they're going to pass us. They're sitting on top there. They're going to pass us in the Mara. So they've arrived in the Mara. So I say 3 weeks before they arrive at Djuma. So there we go. European beaters migrating from Europe back down into South Africa. So those beaters should be with Tristan in a couple of weeks. I'd say about 3 weeks to a month. You should start seeing European beaters again back on Djuma. Okay, well that's lovely. Anna-Marie is wondering why we don't see more fork-tailed drongos in the Mara. Well, Anna-Marie, there's less ideal sort of habitat for them. They prefer woodland to grassland. So we do see them around the forests and up in camp, but not so much down in the grasslands. Oh dear, have I got lost? I've accidentally pushed a button that has removed the ping where the we're almost there, probably another 100 meters or so. I'm guessing it'll be somewhere around here. Let me have a look on the map, on the satellite map. It's at the next big tree, more or less. A little bit to the right, and we're on course. So probably about 400 or 500 meters from the last hyena den. Now let's hope the little ones are in a playful mood this morning. Now, you've always got to be careful when you approach a hyena den in the Mara, because they are sometimes very well hidden. It should be right here. Janet says the weather today looks lovely. Hopefully we'll see a hyena kill. Well, Janet, the weather, the sun's out, but I don't know if I'd go as far as to say lovely. There's a very chilly wind. Okay, so here's the new hyena den, but no one is out and about. So, as you can see, sometimes they are very well hidden. You just go loop around, see if there's anything inside. Oh, is there something in that hollow there, Ferg? That's a perfect spot for the adults to sleep in. No, there's nothing in there. But this is the den. In and amongst these bushes here. But it looks like no one is at home. The adults are out, so the cubs are going to be hiding under the ground, especially no adults, strong wind. It's a risky time. Oh dear. Well, it was worth coming to have a look. At least I know where the new den is now. Maybe the adults are off feasting somewhere. Just making sure there are no adults lying about a little bit further from the den. I think we're going to meander our way back towards the river and see if there's anything happening in that area. But it has not been our morning so far. So the old hyena den's down there, near that, about 400 meters away. Hi Joe. Joe says, wow, look how green everything is. Indeedy. The Mara is a wonderfully lush place. Lots of rain throughout the year, so it's always got a spot of green around. Stanley says all the trees look like an elephant has sat on top of them. Well, I don't know about that, Stanley. They look quite like normal Balanites trees to me. So torchwoods, that's a very specific shape. The elephants do groom them, and you'll see there's not very many low hung branches, and that's from elephants eating the lower parts, and so they do groom them into that shape. Okay, we're nearly back at the road. It'll take us down towards the river. My, everything is hiding from me today, but that's how it goes. Some days you have all the animals in your lap, literally popping out of every bush and tree, and you don't know where to look. Got to work a little bit harder. There we go. So we did find hyenas. Well, let's get a bit closer. Paul is wondering, do hyenas inbreed? With a lot of wild animals, there's always a degree of inbreeding that happens. I'm not sure how in depth hyenas inbreed. Sort of, I know quite a lot about lions inbreeding, but not so much about hyenas. But I'm sure there is a little bit of it. Oh wait, let's go. The little ones look like they're having the best time running around. There's two little ones and probably mom. Charging about, those two little ones. Hello, little troubles. Oh, hello. Oh, so excited. Tails up in the air. Now, that is a sign of excitement with the hyenas. I think they're just excited because they're having fun chasing each other around. Off they go. Isn't that lovely? Naughty little things. They are very cute, our little hyena cubs. Just keeping ahead of mom, rushing about. Let's move a little bit further down the road. Now, as I said, parasites are one thing that can cause hyenas to leave their den. Another thing that doesn't happen as often is really, really heavy rain can sometimes flood hyena dens. And it is always awesome to spend time with little hyenas. They are so much fun. Bori says she just wants to hug them. I think that you might get a few fleas if you did. They are quite smelly critters. And not only the fleas, you might get some tapeworms, some liver flukes, and all sorts of horrible things that hyenas are mostly immune to. Hey, little guys. Leslie says, I love the movement when they run. They do have an awesome run, that loping gait. Coming up the termite mound. Okay, let's turn around. Dory's wondering, is mom taking them to a meal? I don't think so. I think she's, oh, bumpy. I think she's just giving them a, they've gone off wandering, and she might be moving dens. Or they might have followed her away from the den and she's taking them back. I've actually had some fun with this particular clan. Some of the older cubs got very, very inquisitive and have come right up to the vehicle. Hey guys. Are you going to come be inquisitive? Danielle says the cubs have bottle brush tails. Yeah, they do have the sweetest little tails, especially when they're excited and they pop their tails up. Off they go again. Those little rascals. Now, with the wind blowing quite strongly, you can't hear some of the sounds these little guys are making. Here they come. The curiosity. This is what I do love with the little ones. They're coming close to us. And these little high-pitched whines that they're making between each other while they're playing. Moo says, I'm still trying to like hyenas. Well, Moo, what's not to love about hyenas? They are incredibly awesome creatures. Hey, little guys. These guys are probably about 3.5 months old. Natural says hyenas and baboons are in the same category for me. Well, what's that category? Awesome, interesting. They are incredibly fascinating creatures, both hyenas and baboons. Here we go. This is my favorite when they start getting brave. Hello, little guys. So they're probably no more than about 4 or 5 meters from the car now. And sometimes they come right so close to the car that you can't. Oh, yeah, they're coming in again. Hey, guys. Aren't you brave? Joe says, they are so curious. Indeed they are, Joe. But if the adult wasn't around, they wouldn't be nearly this brave. They would dash for a hole in the ground. I think they're being escorted back to the den and being told to go to sleep. Enough of this playing and chasing each other around. It's getting late. Sizel would like to know, how resilient are hyenas to the different types of diseases? Incredibly resilient. Being carrion eaters, they're exposed to lots of different things, but they are very, very resilient to disease. Paul is wondering, is the mother a dominant female or a subordinate that's been allowed to breed? Paul, you must realize these clans are completely different to the ones in Southern Africa. This clan is 90-odd hyenas, so I'm not even going to pretend to know which hyena this is and where she sits in the social structure. And many subordinates will breed here, as well as the dominants. They are just so, I mean, there's 83 known individuals in this clan. Well, we're going to let them meander off and let her put the kids to bed, so to speak, as it gets late in hyena terms, which is hot and warm during the day. So I think they're going to head back to the den we were at a little bit earlier, and she'll probably drop them off, and then she'll move off somewhere close by and go have a nap in the shade, because she does look like she's got a nice full belly. So let's leave the hyenas and head off towards the mighty Mara River. I wonder, well, that was absolutely wonderful. Sir Jake says, how many spiders do we get in the Mara? I'm worried my girlfriend might not want to come with me. Well, Sir Jake, lots of spiders, but like most places in the world, the spiders are very unobtrusive. I mean, we barely see them. We see the odd community web spider, but other than that, we see very, very few spiders. So I wouldn't worry too much about the spiders. Although, spiders do have a knack for only finding the person who's petrified of them. Now, I'll tell you a story about spiders, and I'm not going to say who, because it is a very prominent, very wealthy family from America. And they were... Oh, another hyena running up there. But it was in the early days of what is now And Beyond, or CC Africa. And my dad and the other guys who started the company were trying to get investors to get their dream off the float. And this very, very, very famous, very wealthy, from a very big American family that's well known in the finance industries and things like that. The patriarch of the family was coming to look if he wanted to invest in this little African safari business. And before he came, and it was in the days of fax machine, fax of all the things we had to watch out for and what. And it turns out he was an arachnophobe. And northern Zululand, which is where Pinde is, during the summer months, which was about February, is probably famous for some of the biggest golden orb spiders and the most golden orb spiders you will ever see. So before this individual arrived, we had I was probably about 7 or 8, so it was great fun. I had to check down to the guest rooms with a stick, removing all the spider webs along the way, and then go check the room with the housekeeping, make sure there was not a spider in sight. And then in the before morning game drive, a vehicle would go out with the tracker, again removing all the spider webs from the main road to make sure that this gentleman didn't die of a heart attack and not invest in the business. He did eventually invest in the business. So there's a funny story about spiders. Now, I, touch wood, have still never been bitten by a spider, and I've been in the bush my whole life. It says, I love most spiders. They keep control of the insect population. Indeed they do. I like them because they eat mosquitoes, which is probably one of my least favorite insects. Mosquitoes, tsetse flies, filaria flies, Peru flies. So I like spiders. They eat things that bite me, and they've never bitten me. So what have that hyena found? Oh, it's found something smelly to roll in. No, it's going to keep moving, and we're going to do the same. So while we keep moving, let's go back to Tristan to see what he's been up to.
Well, we have been up to lots actually, and we've seen lots of interesting things along our way, and probably the most interesting thing I will show you shortly. Unfortunately, we had no signal whatsoever, and well, that was the end of that. But it was still nice to see and nice to catch up with a said individual, and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about in 2 seconds. So here we go. Oh no, I've messed it up. Have I? No, I haven't. There we go. So up at Buffelshoek Dam was Hosanna. So Hosanna was on the dam wall at Buffelshoek Dam. Unfortunately, we had to end up leaving him because he was there and we just didn't get signal, but at least we know where he is for this afternoon. We should get the batteries up and running this afternoon and Gari repeater working, and we'll be able to then catch up with Hosanna again. But that is just a little view of where he was. He's looking regal again. He seems to love water, this cat, or dams at least, and he's watching a whole big herd of impala, much like he was yesterday for the whole day, and is being able to actually kind of hunt them. So hopefully we'll see him there this afternoon. It's at least a good sign that there is a leopard. There was also tracks for a female all over that place. Whether it's Shongile or Tandi, no idea. Seems as though she's been walking everywhere. There was tracks for another young male around Mvubu Road, so I don't know if Tumba's up this way as well as Tandi, as well as Shongile and Hosanna, who knows. But at least Hosanna's at Buffelshoek, and we'll head in that direction to try and see if we can find Hosanna again this afternoon, and hopefully, like I say, our signal will work. It's a beautiful spot that he's on, and with the lack of sunshine, I'm pretty sure he'll just keep on that dam wall for most of the day. So it's really going to be a good thing to look forward to. And so our cat streak continues. It might not have been in real time for you guys, but we did still see a leopard this morning, so it's carrying on. Now it sounds like absolute pandemonium in Buffelshoek at the moment. Like I was saying earlier, the Nkahuma Pride is hunting a herd of buffalo as well as the Talamati Pride. They're lying apparently about 500 meters from one another, and neither one can see each other just yet. And in the middle of all of that is Mvula with this impala kill that the Nkahumas are lying now underneath the tree with the Mvula, and so Mvula with the impala, the Nkuhumas, the Talamatis, and a herd of buffalo all in pretty much the same area, which is just absolute madness. So it's pretty crazy to think they're all together there, and hopefully the herd of buffalo or one of those prides of lions decides to come back to Djuma at some point in the next couple days. It would be really cool to see the Talamatis. I actually saw Rex just now at Hosana, and we were having a little chat about this morning, and Rex was telling me how the Talamati pride used to live here at Djuma. He said the Talamatis were the pride that we used to see. They're much more than what the Nkuhuma pride or Styx or any of those individuals. We used to see the Talamati pride here at Djuma a lot. So I said to him, well, it would be nice if they came down. It'd be always interesting when we see new lions around, and so hopefully we'll see them coming south. They're not far from our boundary at all, and neither obviously is the Nkuhuma pride, and so hopefully between the two prides they will be here. I wonder if the lioness has maybe gone to a den as well this morning. Unfortunately, it's in again a drainage line, so chances of reception in the drainage line is probably not very good at all, and so we're probably going to have to leave that for another day. So it means that I'm going to now try and head towards Gowrie Dam and just do some birding along there, because I'm a bit restricted in what I can do. The hyena dens, both of them are not active. Neither one is actually got anybody at it at the moment. Now I can hear a whole bunch of oxpeckers calling, so there must be an animal here somewhere, because we've got to put something on the screen at some point today. Oh yes, there it is. There's a Nyala. You see the Nyala? Very well camouflaged behind the tree there, Senzo. So just at the base of that big knobthorn is a Nyala, and you can actually hear the oxpeckers calling quite a bit, and that's how you can be alerted to the fact that there is some sort of animal in this general vicinity. And so hidden behind the trees and in the darkness of the shadows is a Nyala bull. You can just see him twitching his ears every now and then, and a bit of that white stripe around the eyes, or below the eyes, and then just that shaggy brown coat and the horns. And you can see how well the horns actually blend in comparison to what some of the other animals. These guys, those twirled, twisted horns, often resemble branches as they stand still. And you can see it's quite alert as well. This is the area where Tumba's been quite a bit, and there's been lots and lots of tracks for him, and so there must be a lot of scent in this area that's making him a little bit nervous and a little bit watchful. Christy, you're asking, is the sunrise drive the best time to find Nyala? Christy, no, not really. Either drive is not too bad. We find Nyala pretty much on our sunrises and safaris. We see them really. The thing about them, there's places to look for them and times to look for them. So if you go again, sorry Senzo, I don't know why it's been funny today, but apparently my sound was not good. But you look for them in areas, so you try and head towards riverbed systems and you'll find Nyala, but either morning or afternoon, it doesn't matter, you will find them. Now this impala looks super nervous. He's bolt upright, and now of course he's going to run away, and he's kind of looking around, so I wonder if maybe they've bumped into something at some stage today. Are there any tracks of anything? There's no tracks coming up this way. I think I heard a squirrel alarm calling. Maybe that's why they were so scared. Fluffy? No, I haven't seen the unicorn impala yesterday afternoon or this morning. It was around Gallagher Pan area, so I haven't been up that side today, well, particularly not Gallagher Pan section, so maybe it's still there, but I haven't seen it today. It does get seen on Quarantine. It also gets seen down towards Gowrie Dam, so could be in any of those sections. And maybe now when we go up towards Gowrie Dam we might get lucky and we might find it again. But it is around. It's one of those impalas that you see every now and then. You don't see it all the time, but it is around, so hopefully we will find it again soon, and we can actually get a better view than what we did yesterday. I think Byron's view of it was the best still. Byron had a really good view of that impala, and he had the kind of one right out on Quarantine, and it was completely exposed, so hopefully we'll get a situation like that at some point as well. I'm just scanning along all of these termite mounds as we go, because you never know with little Tumba. Maybe he's up on one of the mounds here. Like I say, don't know where he's gone. There's tracks for a female and a young male, but given now that Hosanna is at Buffelshoek Dam, it's highly possible that maybe he's also moved up that way, or it was Hosanna's tracks that everybody was looking for and he's still in this section, so difficult to say. But there's a Nyala that we can actually see a lot better than what we saw earlier. Earlier we had that Nyala was very obscured and very difficult to actually notice what it was, but there we go. That's a better example of a Nyala. They are the most beautiful animals. They're very, very fluffy, and they've got that white sort of stripe down their back, and they've got this beard, and then those little light coloured legs and dots and stripes that kind of run down the sides, and so they really got interesting markings, and I just like them for the fact that they look a little bit exotic, as I always say. And you'll find that they spend a lot of time all of a sudden, there's been a lot of them starting to come into the Sabi Sands area and spending a lot of time up in these drainage sections. Typically this used to be all bushbuck. We used to see a lot more bushbuck in the Sabi Sands, but unfortunately, given that bushbuck and Nyala occupy the same space, it seems as though the bushbuck are being pushed by the slightly bigger cousin into areas that are less than favourable for them to be able to survive. And so you're finding that Nyala numbers are increasing drastically in these areas, and bushbuck numbers seem to be declining. I can't remember the last time I saw a bushbuck on drive. I see them around camp every now and then, but very seldom on drive, and in fact a lot more Nyala. I remember when I first started in the sands, a Nyala was a uncommon occurrence. We used to get them, but not very often, and it wasn't a special sighting, but it was at least something that was not as common as what we're seeing them now. Now they're an everyday thing, and we see them all over the place. So it's been interesting just to watch this development of these guys. That one is completely unfazed, and it's quite common to see this. I mean, we're close to the other one, so you will find males in close proximity to each other, and sometimes even in bachelor groups together. It's not an uncommon thing at all. Male Nyala also don't dominate over groups of females. You'll find that they come in when the females are in estrus, and multiple males will then be in that area, and they'll then compete for mating, and then when they're not with the females, they'll often join up in groups as males, just so that they can be able to hide away and to be able to sort of watch what's going on and look for predators with more eyes and ears than if they're just by themselves. But look at that camouflage. If you came now and you stood dead still, it looks just like it's part of the bush, doesn't it? So you can see why the whites work as part of the environment, and then that brown color. OD farming, you say, so huge. Well, funny enough, this is not a really big bull either. He's actually, I would say, average size. The one we saw earlier, it was bigger than this guy, so this is still a younger one that's going to grow a little bit, but they are quite big animals. They're actually the divide between large antelopes and small antelopes, funny enough, Nyala. So what you'll find, everything smaller than a Nyala, the males are rams and the females are ewes, and everything bigger, the males are bulls and the females are cows. Now in Nyala, the male is a bull and the female is a ewe. So they the divide basically, and everybody is bigger than them, has a different naming system for male and female. Right, onward and forward we go towards Gowrie Dam for a spot of birding, I think. We'll try and see what's around the dam. There's always things happening at that dam. You can find various birds, and there's often a few animals around. Oh, hello impalas, lots of you on the road. Ah, James, you wanted to see the Wahlberg's eagle nest. I did see one of the pale forms this morning as the lions were roaring, and I went rushing past to go and find the lions. There was one of the pale forms all fluffed out next to the nest, so we will go past again. Hopefully it will be there still. Sorry, impalas. Sorry, guys. Beep, beep. Out the way. There we go. Thank you. So hopefully they will be there, and will be interesting to see if the dark form male is there or female. If there is the two pale forms again. There seemed to be some sort of ousting of what goes on, and I was trying to research it. There's very, 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 very little written about Wahlberg's eagles. I'll tell you that much. Even if you go and try and search them, you get a lot about what kind of eagle they are, what they look like, but very little in-depth knowledge of Wahlberg's eagles out there. I don't know if they're a species that has been studied that much, which is strange, but given that they have this incredible migratory route, I would have thought that people would really have taken a lot of interest in Wahlberg's eagles, and I would love to work out their kind of mating and breeding procedures. It seems as though they will kind of have males will compete for females, and sometimes they will oust another individual. Apparently that can happen, but it's very seldom. So it's interesting that this pair is there. I wonder if it's not just a different pair altogether and they've ousted those other ones from that nest site. That would make a lot more sense to me than just changing of partners, because we'd seen them the day before together looking quite content, and for it to be such a quick changeover between males is quite strange. Although with the male lions, when they come in and they kill cubs and take over a pride, sometimes they're mating with the females within a day or two. So I suppose it does happen from time to time, and I suppose males do get into that section. Right. Now we're slowly meandering our way towards the dam. I can at least see Vuyatela Tower, which means that we will have good reception at the dam, which is a blessing for this morning, given that we haven't had much. Hello, kudus. There's a kudu on my left. Where are you going to go? If you're going to come this way, then let's go forward, because that's going to mean a better gap for us. Are those elephants as well? There are elephants. Woohoo! There's been a long time since I've seen elephants. And they're close to the dam too, which is great news. So we'll definitely spend time with them. I spotted that was what led us to the elephants first, is a big kudu female that is just moving past. So you can see the difference in coloration from her to the nyala. So for those of you that get a little confused between kudu and nyala, that's the difference right there. You can see she's a lot more lighter in color, kind of got a gray neck and a sort of tan colored body, and then is a much bigger animal than what you see on the nyala, bigger head and longer legs as well. Right, well, let's go and have a look at our ellies. We're not going to stay on the road and look at them from a very long distance. We're going to get a little closer, and we're going to have a little look at our elephant herd, because it's been a while. I would imagine these are the same elephants that we see that we heard last night when we were with the Sana. Funny enough, now talking about the Wahlberg's eagle nest, before I go anywhere near the elephants, is you can actually see it from where we are right now, which is quite cool. So right across in the distance on the other side of this little green belt, you'll see there's a greenish area. That's the Mulawati, and then on the top over there, I can't see the road nicely, but there's a road that comes down. So there is the road, and then the nest is in that tree over there. So there's the Wahlberg's eagle nest and tree, and I can't see any of the Wahlberg's eagles, but that's where it is in relation to where we are now. So we'll go down that way a little bit later after our elephants, but there we go, just to give you an idea of where we are in relation to the nest. It's quite nice that you can actually see it from this far away. In we go. Now I just want to let Rex know that there are some elephants, because Rex wasn't too far from me, so maybe he wants to see some ellies, and I think that would complete probably a big 5 drive for Rexon, which will be quite amazing. Woohoo! So I believe that the Gowrie repeater has come up, which means that, well, I suppose we could head to Asana, but I don't think we're going to. We're going to spend time with the elephants. We had such a wonderful sighting of Asana yesterday, and this afternoon will be time for him again. Let's rather enjoy some elephants that we haven't seen in quite a number of days. You know, we've really been looking for them and haven't seen too much of them, so I'm going to sit with them rather for the last half an hour and let Gowrie repeater just carry on charging. We're not going to worry about it now, and then we will get to our leopard, like I say, this afternoon. So there you can see it's not a very big group of elephants from what I can notice at the moment. It looks like just this female and the young ones. I wonder if this is not short trunks herd, given that there are so few of them. It's difficult to see with the elephant with the... Yes, it is her. Is it her? Looks like her. So I would imagine this is short trunks herd. But let me just let Rexon know quickly before we get into this. Rex. I think he might have stopped for drinks though. which is okay. I'll just try one more time. Rex. He was behind me just now when we had the Nyala. Yeah, Rex, if you're interested, there's a small herd of elephants here on Central, just to the west of Hyena Road. Alright, so Rex says he'll come here a little bit later, which is perfect. Look at the little one. What are you doing? It doesn't have any grass in its trunk, so it's not knocking off bits of soil. So I don't know what that little baby elephant was doing. It's just having fun, I suppose. It's overcast weather, and, well, if I had a long trunk, I suppose I would throw it around all over the place as well. But it looks definitely like it is Short Trunk's herd, and I believe a lot of you are excited to see a baby Ellie. Baby Ellies are the best things, aren't they? And particularly in weather like this, I find baby elephants, overcast weather brings the best out of them. It makes them go absolutely crazy, unless it's very hot and they're close to water. Very hot weather and water is always good, but when it's overcast like this, I find the little ones in the mornings can often be full of beans and run around all over the show and chase birds and chase everything because they're not nearly as hot. So now, this little one is drifting away, unfortunately, but I'm sure this is Short Trunk in front of me. I can not make out her trunk just yet because she's got it stuck in the bush, but it does look like her. Excuse me. Philip, you're asking, is trumpeting a nasal sound or is it generated from the throat? No, it's generated from, it's just a nasal sound, so it's a expelling of air through that trunk. It's not generated from the throat at all. That's those grumbles that we hear, that's the throat area. The trumpet is from the nose, so it forces air through that trunk, and then you get that loud trumpeting sound coming through. Senzo, can you see if it's Short Trunk? What do you think? Is her. There we go. So that's good news. This is one of our favorite elephant herds that we get here. A lot of you might know it, and for those of you that are new to Safari Live and don't know who Short Trunk is a female that has a very small grouping. There's only 4 of them in the herd, and it is all made up of probably her daughters. Now, she's an interesting elephant because she's got a trunk that unfortunately must have got caught in a snare, and a snare basically is a wire trap, and so her tip of her trunk is missing. She does not have her full trunk that she needs, and so she doesn't even have the fingers that are so important for elephants. And the fact that she survives the way she does and feeds the way she does is pretty incredible. So she's a survivor and an individual that has overcome serious hardships to be able to be a part of, or to survive and to be out here as an elephant. And the fact that she's raised 3 young ones and has now got this herd of her own going is quite phenomenal. The thing about her is she's quite small, and I think she's actually small for her age because maybe in her formative years when she had that wound, she probably didn't feed as well as she could have, and maybe that's why she's not as big as some of the other big females that we get out here. She's a much smaller individual, and considering she's got 3 young ones, that means that she should easily be close to about 28, 29 years, somewhere around that side. If you think that it's generally about 4 to 5 years between calves, and they give birth for the first time between 12 and 15, you know, the situation that she could be around 30 years old already, in fact. And this little one here is quite big already, so she could be well over 30, and a 30-year-old female should be slightly larger than what we see with Short Trunk. But it could just be that she struggled to feed initially, and that's why she's got a slightly smaller appearance than some of the others. Now I want to just try to get around to the front end of the herd and then let them all just drift past us. She's a very relaxed female. That's the nice thing about her as well, is she really is relaxed. She allows us some incredible views of her. I've had some great sightings of this herd all around the car and just relaxing and taking it easy. We often see them around Twin Dams and at Gowrie Dam. They like to use the Mulawati quite a lot, much like most of our elephants do, and so it's nice that she's back. I haven't seen her in ages. Can't remember. I think last time I saw her was before I went on leave, so it's nice to have her back in the area and back with us, and hopefully she'll be sticking around for a few days. We generally find when she does come that she's here for a number of days. She doesn't just kind of come in and disappear. She normally spends 3-4 days around, 5 days, sometimes even longer. I remember one time she was here for close to 3 weeks. We had her pretty much every day, which was really quite cool. Now I'm just doing a long loop around to try and get to the front side of this grouping. Like I say, they will drift slowly towards us, and we're just going to park off and have a little look at them from where we are now, because they're feeding just to my right hand side, and you can see there's her oldest daughter is next to her, and then she's got her youngest one with her, and then the middle child is off on its own mission out in the front at the moment. So I'm pretty sure that these are all hers. Even that big one that's to her backside, that also will be one of her, like I say, her oldest one, and then that little one should hopefully have young ones, and then you'll find the herd will just grow and grow and grow. And wouldn't it be nice if we saw this herd in 20-30 years time, and there was a big sort of 20-30 individuals in the herd? Wouldn't that be wonderful? It would be a really nice way to remember this herd and to see it growing and becoming much bigger. But they must be loving the weather we've had over the past few days, this cooler, rainier weather after the heat that we've had. Because remember, the ellies in the heat must suffer. They are big animals, which means that they get a lot of sun on them, and it really gets very hot. Of course, they are perfectly designed to try and basically survive, or they've adapted perfectly to survive in these areas, and that means that they're able to work out, get out the heat by using their ears, and they use water and all the various other things, but it's just so much more comfortable when they're feeding in conditions like this rather than hot sun. Michael, elephant skin, as far as I've seen, doesn't change color with age or texture. It might just get a little bit more wrinkly and a bit more saggy, so you'll find that the tummy area sags a little bit and distends and herniates also after a number of calves, and their temples will sink in a little bit, but otherwise the skin pretty much remains the same. It doesn't lighten or darken too much. The skin actually a lot of the time takes on the tone of the substrate that they're in. So if they're in an area like the Sabi Sands, where we've got very sandy white soils, you'll find that they get that greyish white appearance on them. Whereas if you go into places like Savo in Kenya, they have very clay soil, and the elephants there take on a much more ochre red appearance than what ours do. So it's more substrate based than anything else, but I've certainly never seen an elephant changing colour as it's gotten older. It's not like the lions, that the males start to produce these darker manes due to testosterone or anything like that. So they're individuals that pretty much stay the same color throughout their life. You can see all of them are of a similar tone. In fact, there's very little difference between any of those animals. The tones on them are pretty much the same. So nice just to sit with them and listen to them feeding and taking it very, very easy. It's always the thing about this herd is I like just how gentle they are, because there's so few of them. It's never very chaotic with this herd. It's always kind of quite peaceful and sedate, and everybody just ambles around and feeds, and it really is super relaxing to be with this herd. You just sit, and it's almost like you forget about anything else that's going on in the world, forget about any problems that you have, and you just sort of immerse yourself in amongst the herd, and just it's relaxing to hear them slowly feeding around you, a few birds calling, and I don't know, there's something about it when you've got these smaller groups together like this. Right, well, what I'm going to do is probably sit here for the rest of the drive. At the end of the day, like I say, we haven't spent too much time with Ellie's recently, and there's such a beautiful grouping, and there's so much history with her, that we're going to stay the rest of the drive with them. And while we do that, I believe Brent is still bumbling around the Mara, and hopefully he'll have some success.
Oh, welcome back to the Masai Mara. Not much happening. Oh, there's something pretty in the distance, and at least it's alive, and it is a lovely, massive, actually a very big eland bull off there in the distance. Now, one of the funny things is out here, you quite often find the bulls away from the herds from time to time. Now, isn't he gorgeous? Look at that dewlap. And as I say, he's very far away, so there's a bit of a heat haze, and there's very strong wind shaking the camera as well. So we do apologize for the little bit of the bumpity. He looks very contented there, chewing on the cud, having a lovely morning breakfast. Okay, well, we'll leave the eland to his breakfast and see what else is out and about in the Mara. Now, as I said, it hasn't quite been Fergus Clark and myself this morning. We haven't had the best of luck, although we did have a wonderful time with those little hyenas. But on the kitty cat front, it's been a bit quiet. So who knows, maybe the Angamas will be around when we get a bit closer to the base of the hill. Buddy house boy. Okay. And I'm sure those lions are here somewhere. We just can't find them. Michelle's wondering, do any of the lion prides run into each other? Yes, they do, Michelle, and that normally ensues in a bit of argy-bargy. So they will fight. Females will fight to keep their territory from other females, and vice versa with males. And even if there are new males coming into an area, females will sometimes fight with them. So there is quite a lot of fighting amongst lions. Now, sometimes you'll find that there are sort of related prides near each other, and then they might be a little bit less aggressive with each other than completely unrelated prides. But as time goes on, the bonds that they formed when they were one pride slowly but surely evaporates, and they become aggressive, very aggressive towards each other. Dump Rat Dave is wondering, is a lion's roar louder than a tiger's? I don't know. To be honest, I've never heard a tiger roar, so I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm going to have to have a research. Maybe we should ask James. I think he's heard tigers roaring. The tiger roar is quite different. I have heard them roar, but in captivity. So I'm not sure, actually. I've never really thought about who's got the loudest roar. While we try and see if we can catch up with Angama lions closer to home, let's go back across to Tristan, who's still with those wonderful elephants.
We are, Brenty, we are, and hopefully you'll catch up with the Angamas and complete your mission for the day. And I wonder if Brenty's decided to still keep his shuka on. I think it must be cold that side. Would have been perfect to have one of those this morning on this side of the world. Senzo, where's your one, by the way?
What?
Your shuka.
Oh, I've got it.
So Senzo is not wearing his, which I'm surprised. I thought he might wear his given that it's been a bit cold, but he seems... I forgot also to mention that everybody's quite worried that the baboon sells Senzo socks, so if we find baboons wearing brightly coloured socks, we know what's gone on. But no, I think apparently everything was fine, that they did not steal the socks, and so Senzo still has his socks and all is good. So Senzo says he's going to do an investigation when he gets back, and he'll update us onto what has gone on in his room. But he hopefully still has all of his socks. I'm pretty sure he'll be quite upset if his socks have gone missing. We know that Senzo has the brightest coloured socks in the world, so he's been looking very, very spiffy the last few days, and hopefully there'll be a good pair. Senzo, there's going to be sun today. Are you going to wear a nice pair this afternoon? Or are you going to be in your open sandals, invisible socks again?
Let's see about the investigation.
Let's see. So he says, let's first investigate to see what socks might be missing, or if there are socks missing, and then he'll decide what he's going to be putting on his feet this afternoon. Well, either way, I'm pretty sure it will be colourful. There will be some sort of colourful part of Senzo's wardrobe, that's for sure. He's never, ever only got just colourful socks. There's always a belt that's colourful, or a t-shirt, or something like that. So I'm pretty sure we'll have some interesting fashion this afternoon that will brighten everyone's day up. So we will, of course, show it again. We'll go and find some way to get Senzo on camera. Philip, yes, it is dangerous to drive between an elephant mom and her calf. You try and avoid that at all costs. You don't want a female to feel like her calf is being attacked at any point, and it can be very, very dangerous to do so. In some situations though, being like we are now, and let's say hypothetically that calf decided to walk all the way towards where I am and mom stayed where she is feeding, and the calf ended up on the other side of me, she wouldn't worry at all. She wouldn't be upset with me because she knows that I haven't driven here. I'm just standing here and they moving around me, and that's okay. If I had to drive now and try and wedge myself between her and that calf, she's going to lose the plot completely and probably kill me and roll this vehicle multiple times. So we try and avoid that as much as possible. But what you'll also find is that the calf knows full well where it needs to be, and it knows if something comes towards it that it must go towards mom, and it will often try and position itself on the other side of mom, so the side opposite to where you are. And so you actually a lot of the time don't get anywhere near the calves before they're already by their mom's side. So getting between an elephant mom and her calf is very difficult unless you catch them by surprise, in which case she probably will be quite grumpy with you and quite upset with you if you are between her and the calf and you forced your way in that area. You can see now, look, she's walking towards me, calf following behind her, and there's no worries whatsoever. I don't feel in any way intimidated by the fact that she's right here, and the calf is doing its own thing. There's a bit of distance between the two. You can see she's not displaying any sign, and neither is the calf, of any sort of worrying that we hear. Good morning, girl. A long time no see. How cool is this when you've got an elephant this close? It really is just the best thing in the whole world. Hello. She is so wonderful, this elephant, and you can see, look how relaxed that is. There's no ears out, no nothing. Here comes little one. So theoretically now we're pretty much between her and her calf basically, and you can see she's not even turning around to look. The little calf comes past. So awesome. Now it's going to be fun to watch the little calf, because there's a big fallen over tree, and if it follows mom, it's going to have to negotiate the fallen over tree, and we might see it struggling a little bit. Mom made it look very easy because she's much taller, but here we go. Let's see. We're going to no, not quite sure just yet. I'm just going to pretend to feed a little bit, scratch my foot, and while I decide how I'm going to get around this tall tree. And of course, walking around is not an option. If mom can do it, I can do it. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some back legs getting caught up on this. There we go. Oh, no, not quite. There we go. On the other side. I'm still doing very casually. Of course, I'm not going to... There we go. And let's see. The back legs always are the ones that get caught. Well, it actually was very good. It was far better than I thought she would do. I thought that little one might have a bit of a problem, but it actually did it just fine and negotiated the stump very well. Super cute though to see when they go over the stumps. Now the rest of them will slowly file in, and you'll often find this is that the youngest one, when they're walking, gets positioned in the middle, and then you'll get the second youngest, so this is this one, and then the oldest of the daughters at the back. And so they try to keep the younger ones in the middle, so that the older ones that can deal with any potential threat are able to then sort of protect them from both the back and the front. So it's very common, even in big herds, you'll find a very similar thing where there'll be a matriarch right in the front, and then one of the big females at the back, and then the little ones get pushed right towards the middle and made sure that they stay safe. And the best example I ever saw of females protecting little ones and making sure that they're safe and where they position them in the herd was when we had the floods in 2013. We had some floods. They weren't major, not like the 2012 ones, but in 2013 we did have some down at Lion Sands, and the Sabi River was flooding, and the elephants were trying to cross, and obviously the babies being very small were probably going to have a very tough time and would have been washed away heavily. And so what happened was the mothers all basically walked into the water, and the calves stayed behind, and then they formed this line. And so once they got into a line, the last female then would drag the calf and with a trunk and basically put it around and push her, and they then just guided these elephants across. And once they had all the calves up against the adults, because the adults were standing firm in the water, the calves were being pushed by the current and were actually almost at a point where they were going to get washed away, but they would get pushed right up against the body of their mothers. Each one would have a trunk around them, and then they just guided them safely over this water. It was really quite amazing to watch. And as they got onto the other side, then all the calves went into the middle, and then the females then spread out again, and they were in the front and the back. But it just shows you how they very good at organizing and very good at positioning the calves in a way that they know is going to keep them safe. And for the fact that they have that intelligence to know that if they position downstream, the calves can wash up against them and they can guide them across is quite phenomenal. Interesting also watching these guys feed today. They seem to be doing a lot of digging, which is quite common in the driest part of the year. So when we get really, really dry, you'll find ellies do start to dig extensively. They're looking for tubers and roots that have got a bit of nutrients and also water left in them. So it's interesting just to watch them go about their business and dig and make sure they find some sort of nutrition in this dry, desolate land that we have at the moment. Of course, that's all going to change in a few weeks' time when it gets busy. Now, while I sit with them, I think we're going to start meandering our way home and towards the dam. But let's go back to Jamie, who's got a spotted friend.
And we're back catching up with, I think, hyenas from the Happy Zebra clan. It might be the South clan, but I think it's Happy Zebra. Or is it Laughing Zebra? I can never remember. And I just need to move right out of the middle of the road because I've caused quite a sensation. Sorry, Manu. People are wanting to come on by. There we go. Hello, little hyenas. I think Manu and I are thinking about going back to the other side of the river at this point. It's windy here, it's cold, it was sunny that side, and warm, there was no wind. What do you think, Manu? Maybe we should turn around and go back. Since we last spoke on the opposite side of Lookout Hill, I think Manu and I must have travelled... How far do you think we've travelled? 15, 20k?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And even though we are basically now opposite Lookout Hill on the other side of the river, we had to go all the way around, down south, across the Mara Bridge, and back up again. Joe, hyena do know how to swim. It's actually, you'd be hard pressed to find an animal out here that doesn't know how to swim in some way. It's actually quite strange that human beings have to learn how to swim. Most animals instinctively can do it. So hyenas cross the river, lions can cross the river, they can swim. Elephants love swimming. I mean, that's an animal that actually really truly enjoys it. But most of the animals out here will have some swimming ability. Hyenas love it, cheetah don't, but they can do it. Exactly the same as all of the other animals out here. I've never seen a rhino swim. In fact, I don't even think white rhinoceros can, because I don't think they can hold their heads that high, but maybe I'm wrong about that. How have I never thought of this before? It's such a bizarre image. White rhino swimming. I'm going to have to go look that up. I've never ever seen a rhino swim. I've seen them wallow, but I've never seen them swim. But most animals, just like your dogs at home, they can swim automatically. Obviously, you have to teach them if you've got a swimming pool where to get out and how to get out of it, but essentially they're absolutely fine. Yes, we're talking about you, mischiefs. And I'm going to do a horrible thing and I'm going to take your toy away. You've got a plastic bottle that you've been playing with. I'm going to steal it. 1, 2, 3 hyenas. Okay. I'm just going to quickly do something that's not going to make me very popular. Yes, I know. At least with the hyenas. We've been having a good chew, huh? For the most part, people are really very good with litter, but every now and again it happens. Andy, you say, hi guys, how cold could it possibly be on the equator? Oh well, it's messy enough back. No, actually, I don't want that there. I'm going to put it in the back. Andy, how could it be so cold on the equator? It's just because we're high. It's quite a high altitude. I mean, we are 2,000, not quite. We are 1,700 odd meters above sea level. Just going to dump that there for now. I'll get rid of it. I don't really want a hyena slobber all over everything. Obviously, people are very, very cautious with litter around here. Sorry, just to clarify, but things happen. And sometimes hyenas go where they shouldn't go, and they open up dustbins they shouldn't open, and they pull out things they shouldn't have. So I'm just removing their chew toy. They really don't need a giant bottle of oil, cooking oil, do they? So it gets chilly. It does get chilly. The wind is also a factor. Wind chill factor does make an enormous difference. It does, and whilst it never drops to below, I would say, about 15 or so degrees centigrade, which is, what is that, in the 50s Fahrenheit? Somewhere around there, 54, 55. It never drops much below that, but that can feel cold when you've got wind blowing and you've been out all night, and around about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning is when it really hits its coldest moment. And it doesn't get that hot either. It doesn't get as hot as the low felt does. So Tristan and them have been experiencing, I know, really, really warm days recently. It's been sitting well over 35. And here, I would say that the hottest we get to is around about 30, unless you're very silly and you go and lie in the sun. It's actually a really nice climate. It's not freezing cold, and it's not boiling hot. It's perfect. It's less perfect when your coffee is tepid. Our coffee was tepid this morning. There's no other way to describe. In fact, I'm not even sure tepid is the correct description. In fact, we basically had iced coffee this morning. We had cold coffee, which under certain circumstances can be very nice. Manu and I both woke up at around about 4. I know there are places that get very cold. You're in Illinois and apparently it gets to around about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is below freezing. It does in Johannesburg as well, and very occasionally in the low veld. So I hear you. It's the temperatures that I'm describing don't seem cold, but I promise you I have had so many people come from cold climates as guests and say, no, we know what cold is. And then they sit and shiver on the back of the vehicle because they've underestimated wind chill. We've all experienced it as guides. It's one of those things. People don't believe you. That's okay. We'll be warm. We'll be toasty warm. Speaking of which, speaking of somebody who's probably going to be toasty warm for the rest of the day, let's go across to Tristan.
I think so, Jamie. It's starting to heat up very quickly now. The clouds are breaking, and when the sun comes out, it's got a little bite to it. So I think we're going to be quite warm by this afternoon, which is good news. Warm weather is good weather. It means that things will be at water holes again, given how dry it is. And so hopefully we'll have a situation that we're going to have a busy afternoon. And especially now that Gari Repeater is working again, it means that we've got free range over the whole of Djuma and Chitwa, and we can find everything that is around. I'm sure the Sticks Pride is still somewhere here on Djuma, and I'm pretty sure we'll have Osana this afternoon as well. And well, you never know what else will be around. It seems Tumba likes to show himself in the afternoons these days, and hopefully even Tundi might be around. It would be nice to have them as well. So we're just coming to Gari Dam. I'm going to see if there's anything happening here. I don't think there will be too much in the way going on. There's a few impalas that I just passed now, and one waterbuck that maybe is on their way here, but otherwise it looks like it's quite quiet. No sign of any birds, which is surprising. I would have thought we might have had a heron or something in this shallow water, because if you look at the water now, it's really starting to get very low. Even in the time since we had the Ellies swimming, because remember the Ellies were there, that mud is showing a lot more than when we had the Ellies. So it's drying up, and I would have thought there would have been storks and herons here catching any of the frogs and fish that are being trapped in such a small area. Now it doesn't seem as though anything's here, but there goes a red-breasted swallow, which is a first that I've seen. So there's another summer migrant that's just arrived, which is great news. I haven't seen any other red-breasted swallows yet, but that's the first one just fluttering about down the drainage line. Here it comes over me. There it goes. So it's just going across now. You might just be able to see it flying off. There's a red-breasted swallow. You might have to take my word for it, because it's not easy to focus on it as it flies around. Brent was also talking about the European bee-eaters arriving. They should be arriving shortly. Most certainly, we would hope that we will see them. Isn't it beautiful as it flies along? And it's probably coming to have a little bit of a drink of water. They like to drink out of places like this. Now, unfortunately, it is that time of the day. It is the time of the day where we have to start heading home, and we're finishing up our morning's work. It's been a wonderful morning. I still have enjoyed myself, even though we had a bit of a technical glitches here and there. It was nice to have tracks for Tamba. We've had a few other animals around, and then obviously we caught up with Usana and the short trunk herd. So that was really nice. And then the Mara, it sounds like lions and cheetah and hyenas. It's all happens. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.